Hey, I've got the campaign brief ready, built from last quarter's data and the competitive landscape.
Approved. Oh, agents, where would we be without you?
Somewhere with a lot more tabs open.
Create your first Monday agent in minutes at Monday.com.
If your fashion wish list lives rent-free in your brain, you need to be on Poshmark. With Poshmark, you're shopping millions of listings from thousands of closets, each curated by someone with their own style. Vintage finds, designer pieces, and everyday staples all in one place. Search for your favorites or let the discovery come to you. Poshmark makes it easy to find what you actually want to wear at prices that feel like a quiet win. Download the Poshmark app today and use code PODCAST10 when you sign up to get $10 off your first purchase.
On today's episode of The Bridge, a transformational health podcast with yours truly, Dr. Elizabeth Rodgers, we are diving off the board into the deep end of root causes, my jam and one of my favorite topics to talk about because I'm an expert at identifying root causes of any health issue and imbalance. And that really started with me back on my journey. It's so important to me that throughout this show, I give you a deep, honest, realistic understanding of what root causes are. And there's a lot of myths out there, and you're being told a lot of things that are common, quote unquote, root causes that are actually effects, not causes. And so in today's episode, I'm diving into talking about what root causes are not. I'll share with you some of the common things that you are being told are root causes of your health issues and imbalances that are actually not the real root cause. So join me in today's episode. I'm so excited to dive in with you, and I can't wait to connect. Welcome to The Bridge, the show that bridges the gap between Eastern and Western medicine, science and spirituality, physical and energetic health. If you're a leader seeking to heal from within, ultimately achieving the pinnacle of health and well-being for your mind, body, and spirit, then rest assured, this show is tailored just for you. I'm Dr. Elizabeth Rodgers, the Sherlock Holmes of health. I'm a trailblazing Harvard-trained epidemiologist turned transformational health coach. Basically, I find the clues that every other healthcare practitioner missed because they were looking in the wrong place. Welcome to today's episode of The Bridge, a transformational health podcast with yours truly, Dr. Elizabeth Rodgers. And I am so excited that you're here. I don't know if you all can feel it, but podcast family, first of all, I love you and I've missed you. And I'm so happy to be here. We took a little bit of a break before we started recording this next episode. There were a lot of reasons for that I'll explain in other episodes because I'm fully transparent and I'm going to share all my stories with you. But one of the big reasons that I was waiting to start recording this series is because I wanted to record this first episode in the series during the Lionsgate portal, which if you're listening to this, no matter where and when you are, it is August of 2023 when I'm originally recording this episode. And between July 26th and August 12th of every year, we enter what's called the Lionsgate portal, which most of the people I attract, if you're listening, are very spiritually grounded. So you've probably at least heard of the Lionsgate portal, but it's a really powerful and potent time spiritually. It's an amazing time to just bring information through, to receive. There's a lot of healing and transformation going on in the universe right now. And I am feeling very connected and in tune to all these universal energies right now. And if you're watching the video, which to those of you listening now, watch out because soon we're going to start loading the videos of all of our episodes and interviews onto our YouTube channel. And I'm so excited for you to be able to see us and connect with me because right now, when you see me, you'll see that I am literally glowing. I am feeling very on fire, very embodied, very just fully myself in my fullest essence right now. And I'm so excited. So let's dive in because today we are kicking off a series that will go on probably indefinitely throughout this podcast and show, which is one of my favorite topics to talk about, root causes. So this is going to be the first episode in our root cause series, and you will see I will present many episodes in the root cause series so that you always know if you're looking for something on the show or a resource that's specifically related to root causes, it'll be easier and more helpful for you to find the shows and the episodes if I at least categorize them for you this way. So today is our first episode in the root cause series. And I'm very excited because, like I said, this is one of my favorite topics. Why? Because root causes are my freaking jam. So first, I want to talk to you about root causes. I'm going to teach you all of the information and knowledge and wisdom that I have on this topic and anything that I continue to learn in the future. So understand that you are listening to the expert on root causes. Why do I say that? Because I've been studying root causes in depth for over 15 years. And at this point, I am very aware of all the different types of root causes. What I specifically love to do inside of my private health and longevity practice with my clients is help you identify the root causes that are keeping you stuck in less than optimal health or well-being, or just stuck in any capacity, feeling out of balance, feeling not whole, feeling disconnected, mind, body, spirit. And what I can tell you is a lot. And I will tell you all the things I've learned over the years as I continue to practice and how I've practiced up to this point. There are a lot of myths out there about root causes, and a lot of you are being misled. And what I want you to know is this is always going to be the home where you can come to find the health information that you can trust and how to know whether it's right for you. I will always provide that for you here. What I can tell you is that there are 8 different categories that we know of so far of different types of root causes. Only one of those categories is actually physical in nature. And I'm going to tell you what all of these categories are, describe them to you in depth, and help you learn how, without even seeing me, you could start to identify the root causes of your own issues and imbalances. Now, today, what I want to talk about is what root causes are not, which is an extremely important topic. Here's why. So many of you, like I said, are being misled. People are being misled and being led down paths, wasting your time, wasting your money, wasting your energy, and wasting time on your own health and healing journey. So a lot of the things that you are told are to blame for your health issues, that are the cause of your health issues, truly are not, my friends. And I'm so sorry to be the one to tell you this, but it's just true. I've been there, done that on my own healing journey. I learned the hard way, and I took the long, windy road. I'm telling you, probably the longest path that I could possibly have created to get back to wholeness, to optimal health and well-being. But I'm never going to let that happen to you, not on my watch. So what I want to do first, before I even start to talk to you about what root causes are and go through those different categories, break them down for you individually so that you can understand what's really going on, it's really important to me that I talk to you about what root causes simply are not. I'm going to break this episode into 2 parts just to make this information more digestible and consumable for you, because there are actually 10 right now, different common quote unquote causes that are not actually root causes that I want to talk with you about, because I have been told that some of these things were my root causes, which led me down very wrong paths, working on finding optimal health and well-being again. And it's important to me that you don't get led down one of those paths. So in my effort to teach you what root causes are not, you're going to hear some things that maybe go against what you've been led to believe up to this point, maybe again go against everything you know. And I'm going to invite you to lean in and take on a new perspective. I have a lot of personal stories I'll share with you along the way, because what I want you to know is that you are not alone. If you have had any experience where you've been told that one of these things were your problem and your root cause, and you dove in and you tried to tackle that problem, I have been there so many times, and I'll share that all along the way. So what root causes are not? The first thing they are not, the first category I want to talk to you about today, is that they're not unknown and they're not mystery. There are always answers. Everything has a root cause. And like I said at the beginning of this episode, there are 8 different categories. And often I have found in my practice, not often, every single time I have found in my practice over the years that there is more than one root cause. So if you're being told by any type of health practitioner that the cause of your problem, symptom, imbalance, or whatever it is you're dealing with is a mystery or it's unknown, just know that the doors to my practice are always open. And know that there are a lot of well-meaning practitioners out there, and that this well-meaning practitioner is simply limited by their own training and education, right? And I just simply have done a lot of training and education that are way outside of the box that have allowed me to evolve beyond what a lot of other practitioners are doing around the work of root causes. Now, there are actually a few different types of mystery symptoms or issues that I want to bring up within this unknown or mystery cause topic. So first, these are some of the things you may have experienced on your own journey, or you may know someone who's had these experiences. First, you may be given an unnamed issue or problem. Now, this is happening if you are bouncing from doctor to doctor, specialist to specialist, naturopath to health coach, having test after test, you're being told nothing is wrong. Often the only explanation is maybe that, and I'm going to share with you the things I'm going to share as examples here are real life examples of things that other practitioners have said to myself and my clients. So often, if you have an unnamed issue or problem, often the only explanation may be from a practitioner that it's all in your head. It's just mom brain. Maybe you're just anxious or tired, bored, or depressed. Maybe you look great. You look fine. Well, you look good. That's one of my favorites that I've been told over the years. Well, you look good. Now, another category here is ineffective treatment. This happens when you actually are given a name, diagnosis, or label for your issue or problem, but you're not actually offered a pathway to heal. Now, this is where you're probably told things like you're just going to have to manage it, and you'll be offered a prescription or some other type of Band-Aid approach that ultimately is never going to target the true root causes. That is a management solution. And a management solution is not going to help you heal. Getting a diagnosis and being healed are just simply two very different things. And then finally, within this topic of unknown or mystery cause, which isn't real, is a misdiagnosis. You get a name for your problem, but it's simply just wrong. And this happens. These types of things happen more than you realize. And I want to share with you all that you may not know, because this information, although it's been available for many years, has never been made mainstream. Medical error is actually the third leading cause of death. At this point, our most recent data may reflect that it's even higher than that as a leading cause of death. And that, in my strong opinion, is unacceptable. These types of things should never be happening. My father-in-law, who I love, has an artificial heart valve. And the reason that he has that artificial heart valve is because years and years ago, while he was in the hospital, he acquired a hospital infection. He acquired an infection, which in epidemiology or public health, we call nosocomial infections. Those are also known as hospital-acquired infections. And as a result of that infection, it got so bad that he had to have an artificial pig valve put in, and he obviously would have had to have heart surgery to do that. None of that would have happened to him if it weren't for medical error. I find that unacceptable. So if you are ever told that a cause of your problem is unknown or mysterious, that's simply not true. Something else I will say is that science and research absolutely does not have all of the answers. I'm a research scientist, and I'm telling you that science and research does not have all of the answers. We'll talk about this on another episode, but there's a lot of corruption in our research, science, traditional mainstream medical and science community. And I've experienced a lot of that throughout my career. I'm going to share all of those stories with you here. But the reason I'm sharing this is because as a society over time, we've all been trained to give our power away when it comes to our health and well-being. And we've really been trained to give our power away to doctors and to the mainstream medical and healthcare system. And part of how we're sold on that belief that we all acquire over our lifetime is that we should just trust the science. Well, part of the purpose of science and research is to help evolve our knowledge base. So research can become outdated. And also, just because we haven't found an answer in the research and scientific base that's peer reviewed that already exists does not mean that something isn't true. So my goal through my career is to continue to evolve science and research. If we need people to study root causes, that's what I'm here for. So I also have a research and training institute that runs alongside of my health and longevity practice, where I house interns, and we do a lot of non-conventional work in an effort to bridge the gap, right? Because what we need are scientists who are going to be brave enough to go out there against the mainstream and start to find this information, bring it out to the mainstream so that we bring it out into the world so that we can integrate it into the mainstream. So as I continue running my practice throughout my career and my lifetime, our research base will continue to evolve, and we will continue to show things like what real root causes really are. Now, the next topic I want to discuss in this episode is genes. Now, before I say anything about genes not being a root cause, I want to clarify that yes, genes can be a root cause, and here is the only time when they can be: if you are born with a genetic disorder. Those genetic disorders are 100% genetic in nature, and that is the root cause of them. That's why there are issues, conditions, and disorders that people are born with. So some examples of these are things like Down syndrome and Klinefelter syndrome. Otherwise, there is nothing that genes can actually cause. They're not a guarantee or a life sentence. They can increase your risk of acquiring certain types of issues, but I'd actually like to offer you a frame shift around that today. If we know that we're at a certain risk because of our genetic profile and our family history, we can actually look at that from a positive and loving standpoint instead of a scary and negative one. Instead of being worried and fearful that means that someday you're guaranteed to get this problem yourself, what we can do is actually look at it as helpful information to guide you on your journey rather than a threat. And you know why? Because you and nobody but you are in control of your health. You get to decide how it's going to go down in the end. You get to control the outcome, not your genes. But if you create the story that you're just going to get something because that's what happens in your family and everybody just gets it, then I want to caution you, because what you're actually doing is setting the stage to achieve that goal, because you're taking that on at an identity level. And because your physical body and cells react to your energy and thoughts, things we will talk about much more in depth on this show, then blaming your genes and your DNA, it's literally blaming the essence, the very essence of who you are. It's just simply not a root cause. However, if you create the story that, and I want you to hear me, tell me if this sounds like anything you've ever said or let come out of your mouth or wander in your thoughts. Or maybe you've heard other people say this. I certainly have. Comments like, well, this just happens in my family. Well, this is just how we are in my family. Well, everybody gets it in my family. Well, my dad had it, and so did my grandfather, and so did my mom. And, I just know that, it's inevitable. If those are the kinds of things you're telling yourself, I want to remind you that the cells in your body, down to a molecular and atomic and even subatomic level, are listening. They're absorbing the energy and frequency of all of your thoughts and feelings. So if your thoughts are all swarming around, I'm fearful, I'm feeling threatened, this is inevitable, it's going to happen to me, and I'm scared, and you're feeling scared, nervous, anxious, worried, fearful, your cells are quite literally going to absorb the vibration and energy from those thoughts and the feelings that are being generated as a result of them. And they're going to respond accordingly. And so you will get exactly what's going on inside of your mind. But if you look at your genetic profile as helpful information, and you tell yourself stories like, I'm in control of my health. Nobody but me gets to determine my outcomes. I'm healthy and whole no matter what. And you feel love, positivity, happiness, contentment, peace, calmness around your health and well-being and the possibilities that lie ahead for you, then the cells in your body are going to absorb the energy and frequency from the feelings being created by those thoughts, and then they will respond accordingly. I can promise you this has everything to do with what's going on with your health and well-being. And I have to tell you, we'll talk about this more in an upcoming episode in this series, but when it comes to what root causes really are, the biggest root cause standing in anyone's way on planet Earth is themselves. It's you. And that's why I'm here to help you set yourself free. Letting go and breaking through all those barriers. So remember that blaming your genes and DNA is really blaming the very essence of who you are. It's just not a root cause. Inflammation is the topic that I want to talk to you about next. Inflammation and hormones, in my strong opinion, are two of the most common scapegoats when it comes to root causes that aren't really root causes, things that take the blame for what's going on in your body and with your health and well-being. And this deeply, deeply bothers me. But inflammation is not a root cause. It's an effect, not a cause. Inflammation is caused by something. So I want to tell you a little story about something that happened during my health experience in the past. After my near-death experience, I have shared with you all just in brief detail, but I will go into bitter, great, deep detail about every horrible thing I've been through so that you can hear all my stories and I can help you learn from them. But after my near-death experience, one of the biggest and most challenging problems I dealt with, and I dealt with a lot of chronic physical, mental, and emotional health problems for years after that, and I've healed from all of those things. I consider myself extremely healthy and well at this point. But when I was in the throes of my GI and digestive problems, I cannot tell you how horrible that experience was. I really can't put it into words, but I can share the story. And I know that by doing that, it's going to really deeply connect with a lot of you, because I know a lot of you listening don't have optimal digestion. And I have to say to you that even if you otherwise feel quote unquote good or well, you're not in optimal health and well-being. Your digestion is so important. And I had dealt with terrible digestion at this point for years on my journey, chronic constipation, awful bloating, just awful. My GI symptoms, my bloating, my constipation were so bad that they ruled my life. So that determined where I would go, when, if, and how I would socialize, what clothes I did or didn't put on my body. I had like all these outfits that would be like my good feeling days outfits that mostly stayed in the back of my closet. At the time I was single, so I was dating, and this was such a big barrier. I didn't feel comfortable with even the thought of somebody else touching me, let alone that actually happening in my reality. Going on a date was a nightmare. I always needed to know whether I was going on a date or anywhere else in public. My first thing that I did was determine where the nearest public restroom was because I always needed to know. It literally ruled and controlled my life. And I know that so many of you have felt the same way, or maybe feel that same way now. So I did come to this point. I'd bounced to a couple of different GI specialists looking for answers. Nobody was able to offer me a root cause. I continued to be offered prescription medication, and I did not want that. So at this point, I'm now with the person who ultimately became the last GI specialist that I ever saw. I land in a third GI specialist's office, desperate. And I will do anything for answers. And I am in this office just besides myself, in tears, I'm praying for help. I was just in the worst place I possibly could have been in. My mental state at that point and emotional state was I was in a very, very dark place. And so I'm sitting in this office and the doctor walks in. I will not share her name. And I was in Pittsburgh at the time, so I will share that. Working for the University of Pittsburgh and the University of Pittsburgh Medical Center, which is UPMC, a very well-known and highly skilled, highly trained, state-of-the-art doctors, fantastic training institute. The medical school there is phenomenal. I taught there and did research there. But anyway, I'm sitting there because I'm thinking I'm in the right place. This person's supposed to be the best of the best. First, she walks in the room, and first of all, she did not look like the picture of health herself. And I have to tell you all, that's bothering me more and more these days because I want to be served by somebody who walks their talk. And I see a lot of healthcare practitioners, particularly in the mainstream system, who just do not look anywhere close to healthy in my mind. Yet we're there giving our power to them and supposed to be able to trust them for advice on how we can be healthy and well. I find that to be a very interesting thing. And I personally am all about walking my talk and practicing what I preach. And I also believe that you can't lead anybody to go any further than you've gone yourself. So I feel personally obligated and responsible to continue my health journey because even though I consider myself healthy and well, there's always work that can be done. I can promise you that. But this doctor walks in. I'm besides myself. I'm in so much pain. I'm suffering. I'm so constipated. I just want help. I'm desperate. And I tell her my problems. I bawl my eyes out. I tell her I will do anything and I'm just so desperate for help. Please help me find the cause of this problem so I can heal it. And she drew me this triangle on a piece of paper and said to me that, see, the thing is that I've progressed from the bottom of the triangle to the tip of the triangle. And what happens at the tip of the triangle is chronic inflammation and autoimmune problems. And so she told me that I had IBS and inflammation was my problem. And she did then proceed to order me a bunch of tests. She said to me, "Are you ever going to be able to heal this?" No. Are we ever going to be able to cure it? No. But you're just going to have to manage it. Are you ever going to feel 100% better? No. But you're just going to have to manage it. And if I had to hear that phrase, "you're just going to have to manage it," one more time, I was going to go certifiably insane. Inflammation does not happen by magic. Something else in the body causes inflammation to occur. Like I said, this is an effect, not a cause. Anti-inflammatories, keep in mind, also make big pharma a lot of money. I almost used the F word. I will do that sometimes on this show. But anti-inflammatories also make big pharma a lot of money from over-the-counter and prescription drugs that weaken your immune system. Hint, hint. Big pharma cannot profit if you heal your digestion, if you heal your inflammation. Why? because then you won't be reliant on the temporary management solutions that they can offer you anymore. When inflammation is not the result of a physical injury, which it can be, a physical injury can be a root cause of inflammation. But if it's not, the real root cause, I'm going to tell you now, is actually a pathogen, such as a virus feeding on toxic heavy metals and foods that you are putting in your body that feed viruses, which we'll discuss more in an upcoming episode in this series. Now, when pathogens like viruses feed on anything like a toxic heavy metal or food you put in your body, as a result, just like people, they digest and eliminate. And when they do, they produce chemical compounds in your body that are called dermatoxins and neurotoxins. And these are the chemical compounds that raise and jack up those inflammation levels in your body. So if you're being told inflammation is your root cause, they're wrong. It's either a physical injury, and if it's not, it is chemical compounds called dermatoxins and neurotoxins. Now, a high fat and high protein diet are also connected to inflammation. I'm going to talk a lot more about that and what exactly I mean by a high fat, high protein diet. Hormones are another one of the most common scapegoats. And I feel like every woman on earth has been told at some point that her hormones were to blame. And again, this is an effect, not a cause. Something else creates a hormonal imbalance in the body. We can use adrenal glands as a really excellent example. Now, when you are in stress and you are feeling stress and you're stressed out, your body goes into fight or flight, part of your autonomic nervous system, of which there are two branches, the sympathetic and the parasympathetic. The sympathetic nervous system is your fight or flight response. Now, the parasympathetic is that more calming response, and they should be working in perfect balance with one another. So when you feel stress, when you choose stress, which yes, it can be a choice, when you feel stress, your body goes into fight or flight. And when it does that, your adrenal glands start to produce hormones like adrenaline. Now, this is not a problem. It's good for your body. We need our hormones to be created. We need our adrenal glands to create adrenaline. However, we don't need them to overproduce adrenaline. And I have found over the years in my practice that because we live in a society, especially in the United States, that is very driven by stress, there are a lot of people living in a state of chronic stress and you're not managing it well. But when you're not dealing with your stress and you're not managing it, your body goes into sympathetic overdrive. It gets stuck in fight or flight response. And when it does, your adrenal glands start to overproduce adrenaline and other hormones. And when they do, those hormones, like the adrenaline, actually become toxic and corrosive and serve as a food and fuel source for, guess what? Other root causes like pathogens in your body, which means that, let's say you're doing all the quote unquote things right. You eat healthy, you take good care of yourself, but you live in a state of chronic stress. Even if you're doing all the other things right, including what you consume, you are still feeding the root causes in your body because you're allowing yourself to get burned out and stressed. So this is something else really important that I love working on with my clients in my practice. But like I said, something else creates a hormonal imbalance in your body. So what is it? Well, first, unfortunately, there's a big pharma connection here as well that I want to highlight. I'm a big health history, public health history and medicine history nerd. So I love this kind of stuff. And I'll tell you lots of historical stories that connect to why things are the way they are today with our health system in this world. But back in the 1960s, unfortunately, when Big Pharma realized they could make billions of dollars off of the hormone trend, which was happening at the time, because at the time, women's health was had really fallen by the wayside. We had never in the mainstream really developed, a specialty around women's health. We didn't have a strong evidence or research base that had evolved yet to focus specifically on looking at women's health individually. So women were going to doctors, not feeling well, not getting answers for decades and years. In fact, a big problem with our research historically has been that women have been grossly underrepresented. Now, this problem helped create other problems because back in the 1960s, like I said, when Big Pharma realized they could make billions off of the hormone trend, they launched promotional campaigns claiming that estrogen deficiencies were the cause of most problems that women were experiencing, especially before, during, and after menopause. And so it began. So are you seeing a connection here? Are you seeing how Big Pharma and the system may not necessarily have your best interest, your health and well-being at heart? And all the way up until today, women continue to be told that their hormones are the problem. Again, are you seeing a connection here yet? So if you're being told hormones are your problem, what's the real problem? Well, I would love to share that with you. The real cause behind many hormone issues is actually a low-grade viral infection. Oftentimes, I've found over the years, it's one or more strains of what's called the Epstein-Barr virus. Unfortunately, there are over 60 different strains of that virus, but it's a low-grade viral infection combined with a sluggish liver that is filled with toxins such as toxic heavy metals, pesticides, perfumes, fragrances, artificial scents, old pharmaceuticals, and other chemicals and problematic foods that feed pathogens. So it's really important that you understand that. If you're being told hormones are your problem, digging deeper is going to reveal the true answer that you're looking for. I've helped so many women in my practice overcome things that they were told they'd never be able to overcome. In fact, I had a former client and she came to me because she had been put on meds postpartum for hormones and postpartum depression after she had her first daughter. And that was, of course, when she was in her, but not of course, women have children at many ages. But for her, she had her daughter at the age of early 20s. She came to me in my practice as a nearly 60-year-old woman who all these years later was still taking those meds, and no doctor over all these years had ever bothered to even have a conversation with her about whether those medications were even necessary anymore. So here she was decades and decades later, not in optimal health and well-being, and being told by her current physicians that she would never be able to safely come off of those medications. It would be too dangerous and that she'd have to take them the rest of her life. She came to me so desperate, so down. And she told me that all she wanted was to feel like herself again and that she couldn't even remember the last time that had happened. And I have to tell you all, we got her off those meds. It actually only took us one session to identify what was really blocking her all along. And it was actually something energetic that she and I together were able to help her resolve in that session. In the following days to come, she was able to safely come off of both medications. And she sent me a message a few days later and said, "How can it be? I have never felt this good for this many days in a row in my whole life. How can I ever thank you?" And the truth is, I'm going to say to you what I said to her then, which is that you should thank yourself, because I'm just a facilitator. I can't fix or heal you or anyone. I can simply shine a light, be your guide, walk alongside you. You have to do the work. She put the work in with me that day in that session. And guess what? Hormones are not a problem for her anymore. And she's living a very healthy, and happy life. Now, the last topic I want to mention today is another symptom or diagnosis. So another symptom or diagnosis will not be the root cause, not the true root cause of any problem that you might be dealing with. There will always be another root cause. Now, other symptoms and diagnoses absolutely can be contributing factors, but deeper beneath all of those diagnoses are other issues and root causes that are really the problem we need to target. There are still 5 other common scapegoats that I want to cover. But for digestibility and consumability, I just want to stop and pause here. We'll pick up right where we left off in the next episode, and I'll talk and walk you through the next 5, where I know there are going to be many more of you that have some maybe holy shit moments, because I tell a story that you've lived or maybe are currently living. So we're going to dive into some big, big, big ones in the next episode. So I will see you there. This has been a lot, and I've loaded in a lot of information. So if questions come up, or you want to talk about anything, or there's any one of these topics you'd like me to dive into further, which inevitably I will discuss all of these in depth in unique and individual ways in other episodes in the Root Cause series. But if you've got a story you want to share, a question you want to ask, or there's any of these topics that you'd like to hear more about, please send a message, and know that I am so grateful for all of you being here. This is my joy, and I consider you all my tribe, my community, and my family. So thank you for joining us here today in this episode. I'm sending you all off with lots of love, healing, supportive, and positive energy. That's what I'm being told to send out today. So that means somebody out there listening needs some of these energies, maybe all of them. And if you're open, no matter when you listen to this, you will receive them. I can't wait to see you next time. I love you all, and have an amazing, healthy, and happy day. Thanks for listening to today's episode of The Bridge, a transformational health podcast with Dr. Elizabeth Rodgers. To learn more about my work and ways you can get support to transform your own health, head to my website, drelizabethrodgers.com. Don't forget, Rodgers has a D and a G. You can find a link in the show notes too. I hope you can feel the big boost of positive energy I'm sending all around right now. Can't wait to connect with you on the next episode.